Islamists feel better about training materials. You'd want them to see what they were removed. And I'm just curious, why are the subject matter experts that the FBI had go through all their training material and purge anything that might be offensive to an Islamist, why was that needed to be classified? I would think they'd be heroes in the Islamic world for getting that stuff out. Why was that classified?
Well, we went through a thorough review. I think you've been fully briefed on it. In those materials are examples of cases.
I need you to, I have such a short time, I need you to answer questions. And my question is, why were the subject matter experts' identity classified?
Because the process in whole had within its parameters all information that we have in the Bureau. And if I'm not mistaken, we gave you the names of the individuals.
In a classified setting, and so I'd get prosecuted if I revealed them. And I don't know why you can't make those public so that people would know. But obviously, you feel...
I will look at that.
Well, and also I want to go back to Boston. You said things like, and I jotted these down, what you said, the FBI did an excellent job, did a thorough job, don't know what else we could have done. And according to the Russians, there's a great deal more that could have been done. And when we find out about this Sensitive Operations Review Committee, and as this article points out, if it's true, it says that we don't know who the chairman and members are of this Sensitive Operations Review Committee, who the staff, that's kept secret. The FBI never canvassed Boston mosques until 4 days after the April 15th attacks. If the Russians tell you that someone has been radicalized and you go check and see the mosques that they went to, then you get the articles of incorporation, as I have, for the group that created the Boston mosque where these Tsarnevs attended, and you find out the name Alamudi, which you'll remember because while you were FBI director, this man who was so helpful to the Clinton administration with so many big things, he gets arrested at Dulles Airport by the FBI, and he's now doing over 20 years for supporting terrorism. This is the guy that started the mosque where your Tsarnevs were attending, and you didn't even bother to go check about the mosque. And then when you had the pictures, why did no one go to the mosque and say, who are these guys? They may attend here. Why was that not done since such a thorough job was done?
Your facts are not altogether well.
All right, point out specifically.
May I finish my
point out specifically. Sir, if you're going to call me a liar, you need to point out specifically where any facts are wrong.
We went to the mosque. Prior to Boston.
Prior to Boston.
Prior to Boston happening, we were in that mosque talking to imams several months beforehand as part of our outreach efforts.
Were you aware that those mosques were started by Alamudi?
I've answered the question, sir.
You didn't answer the question. Were you aware they were started by Alamudi? You were not. Okay. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Puerto Rico, Mr. Pierluisi, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director Mueller. I want to join my colleagues in thanking you for your service to our nation. You will leave a lasting legacy and large shoes to fill.
Investigation started.
May I please finish? You're asking detailed questions about the investigation. I'd be happy to get back to you and answer those questions that I can, understanding...
I'm asking basic questions about the investigation, like who's heading it up, and you can't tell me that. Can you get back to me on any group who was targeted by the IRS, who the FBI visited with prior to the investigation starting, while they were applying for tax? That would be important information for this committee to have. Can you get that to me?
We'll look at the questions and try to respond.
Have you reviewed the Inspector General's report regarding the IRS scandal?
I have been through it, yes.
Do you have any concerns about the way the Inspector General did the report and collected information?
I did not focus on that at all. I was looking...
Well, let me ask you a couple of things. Is it typically appropriate for the investigator to have one of the central players in this, Ms. Holly Paz, who was director of one of the key players at the tax exempt division, set in on all the interviews, almost all the interviews with employees in that division? Is that typically how an investigation is done?
I'm not familiar with those circumstances. I understand what you're saying about those circumstances, so not being familiar with it, I can't.
In your time as an investigator, is that how you would do interviews with the boss sitting next to the person you're trying to get information from?
Well, again,
Is it appropriate for Holly, the Inspector General came out and transcribed interview that our staff has done, the Oversight Committee staff has done, is it appropriate to have her collect the data and give it to the Inspector General?
I am not familiar with the...
If that happened, is that appropriate?
I'm not going to speculate.
Let me ask one last thing, because this did happen. Mr. Chairman, last question. So, is it appropriate when the Inspector General is doing his investigation, doing his audit, to give information to the very people he's investigating in the course of the investigation and not share that same information with the Oversight Committee? Specifically, May 30th of last year, the Inspector General told Doug Schulman that the terms Tea Party, Patriot, 912 were used to identify groups and put them on a list. He told them that was going on at the IRS. He told them that a year ago. 4 days later, he told the General Counsel at Treasury, Chris Meade, the same information, but did not share that with the committee who asked for the investigation. The committee who has oversight over the Inspector Generals and all federal agencies did not share that information with us. Is that typically how an investigation is supposed to work?
Again, you're talking about circumstances with which I am not familiar. Each investigation is a little bit different, and I really can't comment on what was appropriate in that particular investigation without knowing and sitting down and going through the facts.
But that's, if I could, Mr. Chairman, and I will stop. That's the point. You've had a month now to investigate. This has been the biggest story in the country, and you can't even tell me who the lead investigator is? You can't tell me that actions the Inspector General took, which are not typically how investigations are done, you can't tell me if that's appropriate or not? This is not speculation. This is what happened, and you can't tell me how many agents are assigned to the most important news story, maybe the most important.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The director will be allowed to answer the question, and if he can't answer it today, we would definitely expect that he answer it in writing to us as promptly as possible.
I'd be happy to take your questions in writing, sir.